Hey everybody, welcome to this week's video. Today we're going to be doing two tutorials. One will be the howlite bead that I bezeled in March's bargain bead box, and the other one is going to be the donut pendant. Yeah, I know, I'm so late with that, I'm sorry. Bad YouTuber. I was going to do more because I have more tutorials to share with you. The only problem is with these tutorials, they can get quite lengthy. Like the videos can get quite lengthy. So I decided to just do two. I have two more coming really quick right after this video. Before we begin, I'm finally in my new studio, my workspace, my comfort zone. If you guys want to see a tutorial on how I've organized my materials like wire and beads, I would love to know if that's something that you're interested in. Just let me know down in the comments below. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this video. For our first tutorial, I am going to be doing this here. Now this was done for March's bargain bead box. So we're just going to bezel this stone for you. Now I picked a stone that's pretty close to the same size. It's slightly bigger. So for this one, if you're doing this one, I put 86 beads as the initial row. So 86 beads. So you can use the same color, you can use two different tones of color. It doesn't matter. Sometimes if you use two different colors, it's just easier to do the bezel. You know where your next bead is gonna go. At least I find that a lot of the times it's better to do two-tone, but 86 beads to do your initial if you're using this particular bead from the bargain bead box. If you're not and you're using a different stone like I am here, now this one here, I've got 90 beads on my stone because this one is just slightly bigger than this one. I picked this one because it is thick, like it's thick. It's not as thick as this one, but it is, it's not too thin. It's pretty close to the same size. Like I said, it is a little bit bigger. So what you want to do if you're not using this stone and you're going to use a different stone is always have an even number of beads going around, always. And then what I've done here to measure, that it's not too tight, it's not too loose. You want it to fit around there fairly good, but not too loose. This can be kind of a daunting process. Okay, so as you can see, I have my 90 beads on the thread and I've kept it at an even number. You always want to keep it at an even number. So if you're sitting at 90 beads and it's still a little bit too tight, you have to always add 2, or if it's too loose, you got to take away 2. So this is basically how I just measure. I kind of push the bead into the beading mat, which brings the beads closer to the surface, and I can see approximately, where the beads are going to sit. If it's too tight, maybe looking at the bead sitting here, there is a little bit of space there, so it might be a little bit too tight. You don't want it to be too tight. So I'm going to add 2 more beads. If it's a little bit loose, that's not going to hurt anything because you will tighten it up after around the bead, like around the stone. So as you can see here, that's about where I want to be. You have a little space here and a little space there. Like I said, that's not a big deal. It's better to have it a little bit bigger than too small. If it's too small, this stone will not go into the bezel as you add your rows. So this looks good to me. So I think that's what, 94? 94 beads. Like I said, all even. You need even numbers. Okay? So what I've got here is a delica. So these are 11-0 delicas. 11-0 delicas in 2 different colors. Now the reason I picked the pink is because this has a little bit of a pink shift in it. These ones here, and these were from Eureka Crystal Beads. So these ones here are the 11-0 delicas, and they're called Pale Wisteria. These are also bought from Eureka Crystal Beads, but I don't know what they are. There's no name or anything, but I do know they came from Eureka Crystal Beads. These are 11-0 delicas, and they're kind of a gunmetal blue silver, which is really pretty. It looks really nice on this. And the reason I picked that color is because I do need 50-no seed beads. Now I don't have 50-no delicas, unfortunately, so I'm just going to be using these ones here. And these are in silver. Because this one has a little bit of silver in it, these will look all right. Now I don't have much of a tail here, so I'm going to pull it down a little bit. I am using a 6-pound fire line. Alrighty. Now I've got a little bit of a tail to work with to thread that in later when I'm ready. And this is the tail end. This is the working end of my thread. So I'm going to go through the tail end and back towards the working end. There. And I've started my circle. I'm going to double check again just to make sure that this is going to work. And it will. Okay, that looks good. You can go all the way around if you choose to. Okay, as you can see, I've made my way around the circle and I've bypassed my initial starting point and just gone by that just a little bit. It just helps to hold the circle in place when you start your next row. Again, I'm going to put this here. It looks good. You just continue along with me, even though you're only doing 86, you only have 86 beads for the blue one, if you're using the blue one. But just put on an even amount. This always works out no matter how big or small the stone is. As long as you're using even amount of beads, you can follow this along. Okay, so for my next row, I'm coming out of this pink bead. I'm going to bypass the silver bead. I'm going to go into the next pink bead with a pink bead because I want the pink beads to sit on top of the silver beads, like that. Okay. Like so. And then I'm adding another pink bead, bypassing that silver bead and going into the next pink bead. And that's what it should start to look like. So missing this pink, coming out of this pink bead, missing the silver bead, going into the next pink bead. And that's what it should start to look like, okay? So repeat this all the way around till you get to here. All right, and I will meet you back here and we'll step up. Okay, as you can see, I have gone all the way around and now I'm just coming up to the edge here. I'm going to grab one pink bead. And coming out of this pink bead, I'm going to miss this silver bead. I'm going to go into the next pink bead and I'm going to step up. So as you can see here, I'm going through this pink bead, I'm going through the next pink bead of the second row, and I'm going to step up. And as you can see, I have 2 rows done now. I'm just going to put my stone on there. Everything is still looking good. I'm going to repeat that over again, but this time I'm going to take my silver beads. Okay, so you're coming out of this pink bead, you're going to skip, you're going to go over this pink bead, and you're going to go into the next pink bead. So basically you're just filling the holes now. Okay, right here. Okay, now I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to continue coming out of this pink bead, filling that hole, going into the next pink bead. Okay, and this is what it should look like. So basically you're going to repeat that all the way around. So I'm going to go all the way around and I'm going to meet you back here when I get to this point here. Okay, we are coming up to the end of row 3. So I'm coming out of this pink bead. Let me see here. Coming out of this pink bead, miss that pink bead. I'm going to go through the next pink bead and the next silver bead, like that, and step up. Okay, and we're ready to move on. Make sure this is, there we go. With my big blue bead, I did 6 of those. Okay, so this is 3. I did that 3 more times to be able to bezel the big stone, because that's quite a bit thicker, that blue one. Now this one here is not quite as thick as that. As you can see, not quite as thick. So if you're using the blue bead, I would do at least 5 rows, 5 to 6 rows, and then you can start shrinking your bezel. So that's really up to you. I did 6 for the blue bead and it worked out perfectly. So if you're doing the blue bead, just do your 6 rows and then we can continue with the rest of the bezel. Now this one here isn't going to be that many because I'm already getting to the point where I want to start, you know, coming around. It's not a super thick stone. So as you can see, I've already covered the edge of it with what I've done. I'm going to do 1 more row and then I'm going to start bezeling in. I'm going to start to wrap it around. So I'm going to do 1 more row for this one. If you're doing the blue one, you do this 3 more times. Okay, and then I will meet you back here and we'll get started on the next step. Okay, now that I'm ready to start doing the back of my bezel, I'm going to take the 50 nose that I have. Now I don't have any 50 no delicas that match, you know, these gray ones that I have. So I'm just going to use, you know, the regular seed beads, 50 no seed beads, okay? And I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I've already stepped up and I'm sitting here and I'm going to go into the next little space. And I'm going to do the same exact thing as I did with the 11 O's, the 11 O delicas, okay? Like that. And what that's going to do, because these are smaller, like they're 15 O, it's going to start pulling it in now because you want to pull this bezel in to capture the stone. All right? So do that all the way around until you get back to here. And I will meet you back here when we're ready to do the next step up. Okay, I have stepped up and I'm going to do that all again. So take your 50 no seed beads and do the same exact thing all the way around between each of those 50 no seed beads. And that's what it should start looking like. Okay. So keep going around. Again, go all the way around with that until you get to this point and you're ready to step up, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, now that I'm at this point, now I'm going to move to the back and I'm going to start bezeling this stone right in. Okay. So I'm coming out of this side. So I've done 2 rows of the 50 no's. Now I'm coming out of this 50 no. I'm just going to go make my way down because I want to end up back here. So I'm going to go all the way down. Till I'm on the other side, or the back side, I guess. So basically I took my thread and I just weaved my way back through each of these diagonally. So this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now I'm coming out of that black delica. Now to continue this side, I want to put my stone in there because this is a point where I'm going to be bezeling the stone right in. Okay, so fit your stone in as best you can. Now it's going to move around a lot. Don't worry. Just do your best to try to hold it in. And my fingers are a little bit. Put some hand cream on, which keeps them from getting so dry. But your stone will slip around a little bit. Now we're going to start adding the 50 nose to the other side. So as you can see, I'm coming out of this bead. I'm going to miss this bead. I'm going to go into the next silver delica. Like that. And then we just keep going around. Now honestly, I probably could have done one more row of these delicas here, but I don't really want to. I don't want to cover the stone too much. So keep going around your stone now that you've got it inside there. Go all the way around the stone, and when you get back to here, I'll meet you back here. Now I've gone around once, I've stepped up so you can see that I'm coming out of the 50 no there. And I'm going to continue, so I'm going to grab another 50 no. And I'm going to go into the next 50 no. And this is where my beads start to capture the stone. And that's what it should look like. And tug on it a little bit. Keep it nice and tight. And again, go all the way around your stone till you get to this point, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, now we are on the third row, and once you've stepped up, now I did a couple of steps here just to remind myself, make sure I was right. So what you're going to do is you'll be coming out of this bead here once you step up over here. So you're going to come out of this bead, you're going to go down into the bead below the last row, and then back up the bead here. So you're going to do a diagonal, you're going to go diagonally through the two beads. Pull it nice and tight. You're going to add one 50 no, and you're going to bypass this next seed bead on the last row and go into the next seed bead. So like that. Okay. Then you're going to go down again to this seed bead and go up diagonally like that. And you're going to add one 50 no, miss that seed bead, and go into the next seed bead. Okay, so basically what you're doing is you're making this little pattern design here, up, down, okay? And at the same time, you're tightening up this area to capture your stone a bit more. And that's what it should look like. Okay, so now we've got the seed bead sticking up. We've gone through this seed bead. We're going to go down to the bottom seed bead and then up to the next seed bead. As you can see there, pull it through. Take your next seed bead, take your next seed bead on your needle. And coming out of this seed bead, you're going to bypass this seed bead and you're going to go into the next seed bead. Okay, and as you can see, there's a pattern developing here. That's what you want. Okay, so I'll do it one more time with you. So now this is the seed bead we just added. I'm coming out of this seed bead. I'm going to go down to the bottom seed bead, the 50 no, and go through the next two 50 no seed beads on a diagonal. then add 1/15. You're coming out of the seed bead, you're going to miss the seed bead, and you're going to go through the next seed bead. Okay, and that is the pattern that you should see. So continue the same way all the way around until you get back to your starting point. Okay, I'm done the back. Now I'm going to move my thread through here and go to the front. I'm at the front here now, and at this point, as you can see on this one here, I just beaded around, did the same thing on the back with the same beads, the 50 and just did the same thing around here. So for this one, I'm going to use the pale wisteria again, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, only I'm going to do it with the 11 delicas. So down to the bottom 15, and then up to that 15, and I got caught here, and then 1 delica. And I think that'll look nice because that little bit of pink kind of brings out the nice pink spots in this stone. You know, it's hard to see on here, but this got some nice little light pink areas in this stone. This is a really pretty stone, actually. So I'm going to go all the way around and just meet me back here when you're right here. So the front is done. You could actually like even add little crystals in here if you wanted to just elaborate and decorate a little bit more. I'm going to leave this stone as is. I don't want to be too, you know, fancy with it. Now what I need to do is I need to bring my thread down to this row here. So that'd be the middle row. Diagonally down. So I'm sitting on this side of this pink delica. So there's my 15, 1 pink delica, 2nd pink delica, okay? And I'm sitting on that side of this pink delica. Now I'm going to add my 50 between this silver delica and this pink delica and go into the next pink delica. Sorry about my dogs, somebody must be here. Do the same thing. Basically what we're doing is we are setting up this bezel to add the rest of the bead chains if you plan to do this. If you don't plan to do this and you only plan to like make a bezel or something, you can still make this border around here. It's still gonna look nice. The reason I added that border was so that I could add these beads easily to this pen, like to the stone. I'm going to go all the way around just like that. And I'll meet you back here when I'm at this point here. Okay, I've gone all the way around. Now I'm going to go through the first 50 that I put there. Okay. Now at this point you can put, you know, one of your delicas if you want. I decided to get an 11 seed bead and start putting there, because most likely with this type of thing I'm going to be doing like a silver chain, because in here you could see that I was using the gold, so I kept everything gold. So that's what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to go between each of those 15 O's with my 11 O seed bead, like that. So now I'm going to go all the way around, and when you get back to here, we'll meet back again. So at this point, now you can add your charm in. As you can see, this stone is more flat, so I didn't really have too much of a problem adding this charm in here. And this charm was basically added for the sole purpose, actually, of hiding the hole. But actually, I mean, it looks really pretty putting that in there. So, so this is a charm that I picked for this particular stone. Now this stone here, if you can see, it's very, you know, it's got quite the curvature on the top there, where this one here is flat. So it's a lot easier for me to put that charm on that one. Basically, all you have to do is just sew that in there. So now that I figured out kind of where I want it to be, I'm just going to bring my thread diagonally up the side here. I think that's where I had it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go up through here. Okay. So at this point, I'm just going to put it through there. And I just have to decide whether I want to put a bead there. You can put a bead there if you want to kind of embellish a little bit. If you want to, we'll see how that's going to look. Okay, so that bead did work. Now if you have something that you can use here, okay, so this is where I initially attached this charm to this pendant when I first started. So I attached it here. Now I didn't have, I didn't have anything that was big enough at the time in this color. So if you have like a bead or something that you'd like to put in there, then you can do like I just did. And that'll hold that in quite well, because this 11O seed bead is a lot bigger than the loop on this charm. So you can do that, or you can do like I did and just thread through a couple of times to hold that initial loop there. Okay, and then I'm going to go through the next bead. And now what I did was I would add, I don't know if you can see that here. I'm going to bring you in a little closer so you can have a look at what I did here. And then what I did was I added two 50 O's, one 11 O, and two 50 O's right here. Went through this bead and then took my thread and captured this side here. Okay. Then went through that bead again, and then this bead here. So whatever bead is underneath, like closest to here. And then from this point on, you can add whatever sequence of beads you want. So if you wanted to do like, one or all four, like 50 O's, you capture it here, and then do a couple beads here, you capture it there, and then do your sequence pretty much the same as that here, and then you capture it here. And if you have a bead that'll go in here, you can hold that down the same way. But that's basically how I did this here. So I'm going to go all the way through these beads. Now the 50 O's at this time are going to be a little bit finicky because they do already have quite a bit of thread going through them. But I'm going to go and make my way up to the other side there. and just show you how I will attach this other side. If you have other charms that you want to add to your piece, basically you just have to pretty much sew them in. Okay, so I'm getting up to the place where I want to add the other side. So I'm going to make my way diagonally up here. Okay, now that I'm up to where I want to be to add this other side here, I'm going to go through that. I'm going to add the 15-0 and then go back down there again. Pull it down so the hole's not showing, and then I'm going to continue on going around. There. And that looks really pretty. Okay, and once you're done all that, then you start adding your beading chain, like your beads, okay? So you just do your beads as long as you want them. And as I was doing them, so I'd come down this way after, well, let's do it this way, okay. So I'd come down, I'd make my first one as long as I wanted it, came down to here, and then after this initial bead, I'd add 3 of the 11-0s. I'd go through whichever one I decided, so that was this one here. So I'd add the 3 11-0s, I'd go through this 11-0, so the sticking out 11-0, that one, and then add 3, go back through here, do my reinforcement through the whole piece, come back up here again. All right, so you go back through here again, come through here, these 3 on this side, go through the sticking out 11-0, and then go to the next sticking out 11-0 through here, and then I'd add 1 11-0 right there, take my thread, go through here, go through that one, and then come out this side, and then add 3, and then all my beads, come back, add the 3 beads here, go through that 11-0, go through that 11-0, and add this 11-0, go through that 11-0, and so on and so forth. And that's how I added these pieces here. So even though this is a little bit different stone, it's a little bit different dimensions and what have you, but basically the pattern is the same, only the blue stone here will be 86 to start, and then you just follow the same pattern as I did. Add your beads, add your charm, but yeah, and that's how you do that one. Okay, we're going to be doing these donut pendants today. Yes, I know I'm super late with this. Like I said in my intro, bad YouTuber. I'm going to do this style of donut pendant for you today, and as you can see, I have a purple one that I found at the CagedRockDesigns.com. I will leave it here for you. They have quite a few things there which I really like, and we're going to wrap this today. So first you're going to need a donut pendant. Now this one here measures just about an 1.25 inches in diameter. Now you can get bigger ones, you can get smaller ones. It's just a matter of doing the weaving that I'm going to do a little bit, make it a little bit longer. But otherwise you can pretty much use any donut pendant that you want to. This is the original one that I did from a bargain bead box a while back that I promised that I would wrap for you. I finally found other donut pendants. This is the donut pendant we're going to wrap today. Now, this is purple, but it has a little bit of gold reflect in it. So, I mean, it is very pretty. It's hard to see in this lighting. Studio lighting is really bad for showcasing the beauty of a stone like this. You're going to need 28 gauge wire. Now this is going to be in whatever color you decide. This is antique bronze, and I cut off 54 inches of it and then put it on the bobbin that I have. I like putting my wire like this on a bobbin. It doesn't get kinked or tangled when I put it in a bobbin like this. So about 54 inches. You're also going to need square wire. This is 21 gauge. This one is also an antique bronze, and I've cut off 4 pieces, and each one of those pieces are a foot long. And then I've taped them with painter's tape. Make sure that they sit together. You want the wires to sitting up against each other perfectly. So as you can see, this is what I've done here, and I've taped it. Now I've left about 3 inches from this side of the tape. So 3 inches this way. Okay, what I've done is I've just cut off 4 little pieces here just to show you how to start your weave. Okay, to how to do the weave. And then you can decide how long you want to make your weave. So now we're going to take the 28 gauge and I'm going to sit it back here like this. And I'm going to leave a bit of a tail. So you're going to take your 28 gauge wire and you're going to leave approximately 6-inch tail. Just so you have something to weave into and finish off when you're done. So you take your 28 gauge and you go through the first wire. So we'll call this number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So number 1 wire, pull it like this and bring it around. And you've done your first loop. Now you're going to bring that wire from the back around bottom of wire number 2. Pull it tight on the tape and then bring it around and put it between 1 and 2. And then you have 2 loops. Take your wire, bring it under wire number 3, this one. Pull it tight towards the tape, then bring it up and between wire 2 and 3 to form that loop. The wires in the back, bring it between 3 and 4 to make your last and final loop. So you got a loop on each one of the wires. Now we're going to head this direction in the front. So you're going to take your wire, it's coming from the back, you're going to bring it over and up through wire number 2 and 3. So like that. Then you're going to bring your wire back to the front between 3 and 4. Like that. Okay, then you can take your wire up and go between wire 1 and 2. So wire 1 and 2, go through there. Push it with your nail. From the back, come forward between wire 2 and 3. 2 and 3. And then go up over the first 2 wires to finish off your loop. And now you are back at your starting point again. So I'll do that one more time for you. So now this is how you're coming. Now you go between wires 1 and 2 to the front, make your loop, bring it up and around. Then you go between wires 2 and 3, always tightening it, keeping it tight against the tape. Then you're going to come up and around between wires 1 and 2. 1 and 2. And you've made your second loop. Now you bring it from the back to the front again between wires 3 and 4. Then from the front you want to bring it to the back between wires 2 and 3. Now for your last loop you want to bring it down under wire 4 and then bring it up and around between wires 3 and 4. 3 and 4. And you're back at the bottom again. And then repeat. And every once in a while, just put your wires together just a little bit close to where your workspace is, but always keeping a little bit of a bend right here and here so you don't get confused, because when they're about a foot long they can be a little bit wavy and move around and get a little tangled out here. So this is a good way to keep your wires, but just make sure they stay a little bit closer together in your work here, closer to where you're working here. Now we're going to take our wire and we're going to go up and around wire 3 and 4. Now we're in the back and we're going to go between wire 3 and 4 and bring it to the front. Now you're going to go up between wire 1 and 2 and bring it to the back. And now you're going to go from the back to the front between wire 2 and 3. And then you're going to go up and around wire 1 and 2 to make your final loop on the top. And then you just repeat that back and forth. And you just make this piece as long as you want it. It doesn't really matter how long you decide you want this piece. For the stones of this size, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches would be fine, but honestly, it's totally up to you. So I'm going to do my weave, and I'm going to meet you back here as soon as I have the length that I want, and we will continue. Okay, so I did about 3/4 inch. So I'm going to measure it up against my stone, and this is about where it's going to sit. Now, like I said, it's a little bit thinner stone. So I don't want it to go up too high, and this piece is going to go up and in between in the little circle and up around the back. So I think I will just leave it at that. So if you have a bigger stone, this is how I would measure it, because like I don't want it to go too far beyond the edge. As you can see in the purple one that I did, I just went up the middle and left the 2 edges free of any weaving wire. I think that looks really pretty. If you decide you don't want to do that, then you can continue with this weave. But I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to stop using the 2 outer pieces of wire, and I'm just going to weave the 2 middle ones. Okay, now I'm coming off the top. I'm going to go between wires 1 and 2, bring it around, do my loop. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom wire, wire number 4. I'm going to bring it around between wires 3 and 4 to make a loop at the bottom. So you've got a loop here and a loop here. Okay, now I'm going to bring this wire back up and come up the back between wires 1 and 2. And now we are going to start our next weave. So the weave in between the 2 middle wires. Okay, so I'm going to take my wire now, it's coming out the front. I'm going to go back and down between wires 3 and 4. I'm going to go back up between wires 1 and 2. And just be careful, you're using 21 gauge, so 21 gauge wire is a little bit soft. Okay, now I'm sitting here like this between wires 1 and 2 coming out the front, and I'm going to go down through wires 2 and 3 to the back. Now from the back I'm going to come back around to the front between wires 3 and 4, and then come up and around between wires 2 and 3. Now I'm going to come up between wires 1 and 2, and then I'm going to go down between wires 3 and 4. Basically doing the same weave, only missing these 2 outer wires here. Okay? Now up between wires 3 and 4, I'm at 2 and 3, sorry. Okay, to make your loop. Back down between wires 3 and 4, up between wires 1 and 2, and then down between wires 2 and 3. I'll do that one more time for you. Again, always making sure you keep your wires with a little bit of space between them, but not too much. Okay, so I just move these every once in a while to keep them pretty much even right here where I'm working. You can see from here on it kind of flares out. That's so that I don't get my wires mixed up when I'm doing the weave. Okay, we're going up between wires 2 and 3, and then down between wires 3 and 4. Okay, then you're going to go up between wires 2 and 3, make your first loop, go back down between wires 3 and 4, and then up between wires 1 and 2, then down between wires 2 and 3. All right, and that's what it should start to look like. Now, depending on how long you actually want your bail, just keep going down as long as you want your bail to be. And what I would do is I would use my stone to start figuring that out. Okay? So I'm going to continue this little weave in the middle 2 wires, and I'll meet you back here when I get the length that I want. Okay, as you can see, I've got my first bit of weaving done. This one here is 3/4 of an inch, and this one here is about 3/4 of an inch. This is about how long I want my bail to be. You could want yours a little bit longer, and if you do, that's totally up to you. Now we're going to take the donut pendant, and I'm going to slip the 4 wires at the 3-inch mark, like the tail end, and it come through like that. Don't forget to include your 28 gauge into that as well. I forgot. Okay. Now this is where we are at. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to start bending my wire around my donut pendant. You want to go really nice and tight here. You want to make your U as tight as you can. Sorry, you want to make your bend as tight as you possibly can make it. So it looks something like that. Now I'm going to take the back wires, which should be shorter. I'm going to take the 2 on this side and I'm going to bend them in this direction and back a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. I'm going to bend them out a little bit and to the back, because you want these out of your way. So they look like that. Now I'm going to do my bail. I'm going to put the 28 gauge back there as well. This 28 gauge, you can just leave it where it is for now. Maybe I'll put it up here. Now I'm going to take my bail making pliers and I'm going to use the smallest side here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold those 4 front wires in the weave and I'm going to bend them around this side here. So bend them to the back. Like that. So now these really long wires are facing the bottom of the pendant, coming out the bottom. So I'm just going to get my 28 gauge wire out of the way for a little bit because I don't want to weave this off just yet. Now I want to take these 2 wires, so the ones on the left hand side, my left, and I'm going to put those through to the front first. So what you want to do is just kind of start bending your wire a little bit. Not a lot, like don't bend it so it kinks. Just bend it a little bit so that it will go in there without kinking. Okay, and we're going to pull those 2 to the front. and ever so gently pull it through. And have it sitting to this side here. So it's sitting to the side here, okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Just bend those a little bit. Not much, just a little bit. And through to the front. Pull gently. And they should be sitting at the front. Now if you want to keep your pliers in there, that's fine too. That might help just to keep it in shape. Keep it in place. I'm going to take the inner wire on this side, the one closest to this weave, and I'm going to pull it up and around this side of the weave. And then do the same with this one here. And I'm going to pull them tight as I can, and just bend them around the donut pendant. Not completely, but right about there. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, and I'm going to insert my pliers just to keep everything nice and straight. And again, you want to take the first wire. The first wire you want to pull will be the one closest to the weave. So that'll be this one here. You want to pull it up and around beside that weave. And then the other one. And this is how we are sitting so far. It looks like a real mess here, doesn't it? Since I've got everything set up here, I'm just going to go to the next stage. Basically what I want to do is take those wires, bend them a little bit so that they're going to go back this way again, because you want to go through one more time the donut hole. Okay, so we're going to pull it through. I'm always manipulating the wire, trying to keep everything straight. Okay, and then these two, you want them to go about there. Want to leave a little space here. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And this is what we have so far. I'm going to take these back wires and I'm going to move them so that they're sitting like this. So this is how they're going to be sitting. These are the back wires. Now what we want to do is you take these wires, I'm going to start with the left hand side, and kind of pull them up a little bit towards these back wires here, and pull the back wires towards them, and have them sitting flat on the donut pendant. Just going to get these 28 gauges out of the way here. We'll deal with those after. We just want to twist them together in the back. So I'm going to twist them together. Just do one little twist. Like that. Now these are your front wires, and these are your back wires. So the back wires now are sitting on this side. The front wires are sitting on this side. Now what I'm going to do is you want to straighten them out in the back here. Okay, and then pull them to the front, in between these two sets of wires. So they sit like that. Now I'm going to finish this side off here first. So now these are the end wires. And I'm going to cut them off because we don't need them anymore. So I'm going to cut off right about there. So that'll be about, from the loop, it's about maybe 1/2 inch. That one. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. There. All I'm going to do, I'm going to take my round needle nose pliers. I'm going to loop them back up. So take the end and loop it like this, facing down towards the pendant. Same with the second one. Twist it and bend it down towards the pendant. And just leave it like that for now. And these I'm just going to bend them out of the way because these are the other side we just finished. I'm just going to bend these out of the way. And do the same thing as you did before. So bring that down, and then you just do one little loop. One only. Now your back wires are facing this way, and your front wires, you're going to pull those to the front. Now we're going to deal with the back, and again, about 1/2 inch. Like I said, you can always shorten it up if you find them too long. Take a small pair of round nose pliers. You're going to twist it in towards the pendant. And then this one, same thing. Twist it in towards the pendant. You can just press those down. Now at this point, we can weave these wires through and cut them off. So I think I'm going to do that because I don't need them hanging out anymore. And this is easy. You just weave it through. So I'm going to weave this through just a couple of times through the back bail. Doesn't matter where you do this. You should want to pull it nice and tight on the wire. Weave it a couple of times. I'll do about 3 and then I'll cut it off. I want to cut it back here. So towards the back inside this bail. Then take your flat nose pliers and press that. And there's nothing going to bug anybody if they wear this pendant. You can do the same thing with this side here through the other side. Now we're ready to finish it off. Now you can move these wires, kind of manipulate them a little bit, these outside wires. So when I'm dealing with an asymmetrical piece, I'll do one side and then the other. So I'm going to deal with these two top wires first that I'm going to cut off. I'm going to pull these ones down just a little bit so they're out of my way, because those ones I'm going to do after. So these ones here, I'm going to cut this wire here about here. I'm going to do the same with this one here. So this wire here. I'm going to do the same exact thing. So I want them to be about the same size. You want those loops to be pretty much the same. Okay, now these ones I'm going to twist and curl this way. So that's the two top wires. And this is where you can pretty much do your own twirlies and whatever you want to do. So it kind of looks like that. And then I'm going to do the other two. And again, you want to cut them pretty much the same on either side. So you got to decide how long you want these to be. I think I'm going to make these a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut to the other side of the weaving for the second set. It'll be a little bit longer. So this one here, I'll cut it to there. And this one, I'll do the same thing on this side. Should make sure I'm right here. The first one, first loop, I went this way. So this loop, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to do the same exact type of loop, only with a slightly longer wire. Okay, same with this one. I'm going to cut off a little bit of the loop here. This is a bit long. Same thing to the other side, a little bit long. And this is where your own judgment comes in on how you want your loops to look, how big you want them to be, how small you want them to be. Oh, that looks nicer. Push this one in and then twist it, twirl it again. Cut it as well. And this is why it's nice not to cut them too short, because you can kind of, decide as you work how long you want them to be, what you want them to look like. gonna take my round nose pliers and then just twist it this way. These bottom ones, okay? There you go. And your donut pendant is done. If you want to pull these out, you can. And there you go. Your donut pendant is ready for a chain of your choice. I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope it was easy to follow along. I do have another one coming out real quick here. I'm working on it right now. If you guys want to see other tutorials, please let me know in the comments below. Before I go, please don't forget to hit that like button if you did like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. You will be notified when I have more videos coming up. You guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.